Hello and welcome to the Power Hour. Today we have two very special guests who are incredibly knowledgeable about electric vehicles and charging to answer all of your questions about this semi new technology. I am Lacy Stockton, and we are going to start streaming as soon as the interwebs start cooperating up in Chelan, where Anne and Randy Brooks will be joining us from. I will see you shortly. Hey guys! Thanks for joining.
Hi.
Hey, you guys are going to have to get real cozy for our show today. And I will make you full screen when I can. So, I am so grateful for you two to come and talk about electric vehicles. This show actually got a ton of questions beforehand, but if folks are watching live right now, they can drop their questions in the chat and you can answer them live. I think I'm just going to kind of dive right in though, if you are game.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, one question that we got was about all wheel drive. So, folks who might live at higher elevations, get some snow, are there any options for them?
If you look on plugs, you will find uh,
Cool. So, Plugstar is a great resource for folks who are curious about what kind of models are out there. I went on it and I was surprised by how much variety there is. I know that I generally think of, oh, yeah, Tesla, maybe a Leaf, a Volt, but there's way more. It seems like almost all manufacturers have gotten on board the EV train. Yeah. Okay, cool. So there's definitely all-wheel drive models out there and available. So Patty, who I believe is in Chelan, had a question about any superchargers coming to town.
Tesla.com and you look up that they have and select.
So the next one is planned for OMAC?
We'll see.
So we'll see. Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, but it is interesting. So on Tesla.com, they've got kind of their game plan, and
Right.
superchargers are specific to Tesla charging. Is that right?
There are plans and they're testing it in Europe. Let's other electric vehicle stations.
Randy and Ann are going to join us. They're just going to head to a different Wi Fi connection. They should be back on here shortly. Until then, there were some questions that folks had related to our grid. And okay, if everybody switches to electric vehicles, can our grid handle this? And not just probably in Chelan County, but generally. We're switching over to electrifying not just vehicles, but also our heating, which in Chelan County, we mostly use electric heat, but that's not the case across the country. So as we try to move towards a lower carbon future, folks are electrifying everything they can because it's easier to have lower carbon emissions using electricity than by trying to change what fuel your car is using or things like that. So to answer Michael's question, can our grid handle it? The short answer is yes. We have started modeling what it would look like if people were to electrify transportation starting, decades ago as electric vehicles started becoming more and more popular and more of an option. So this is definitely in Chelan County and other utilities' purview. We have a plan for this. And more than that, when you think about when Rock Island Dam was created, that was 1933. Our electric use has changed a lot since 1933. So, first it was all of these appliances that came in, and then it's all the electronics that started coming in the 80s and 90s, and to today, these giant big screens TVs that we have. So, to put it in context, switching to an electric vehicle in every home would be sort of like everybody getting a hot tub. Or another water heater. Okay? So it's that level and scale. The most important thing for us is to understand when people are going to charge. So if everybody decides to plug in at the exact same time, that's not ideal, right? If everybody decides to charge on the coldest morning in Chelan County of the year, that's going to put a lot of drain on our resources. So, one of the game plans that we have is to do what's called managed charging. It's fancy talk for we're going to design when cars are charging. So, Teslas and other vehicles, they already have these really cool systems in place where you can schedule on your phone when your car charges. And now we're just going to do a little bit more coordination with that to make sure that everybody's charged when they need to be and our grid and our electric resources are used smartly for the benefit of everyone. So that's a great question. Thank you, Michael. And the other one I have here, this one is completely unrelated to electric vehicles, but I'm all game. If you guys have questions about saving energy, about our river flows, any of that things, I can help answer those, even though our topic today with Anne and Randy is electric vehicles. So Emily was curious about, we hear all these issues of drought in California. She's saying, should we be concerned about reduced river flow and reduced hydropower in the coming decades, sort of like what's happening on the Colorado? Well, this is a great question. We live in a totally different watershed than the Colorado, sort of different climates, different issues as climate change adjusts our river flows. So, on the Colorado River, one of the big issues that they have is that they use a lot of that water for irrigation. It, from Colorado on down to Arizona, Las Vegas, California, all of that agriculture is mostly drawing from the Colorado, or as much as possible right now. Some of it's coming from aquifers, but most is coming from the Colorado River. On the Columbia, we don't have as large of an irrigation project. We have some. That's part of Grand Coulee Dam, which is upriver from us, which feeds some of the Columbia Basin Reclamation Project. But it's not the scale at all of using the Columbia River for irrigation purposes currently. So that's a big difference. The other difference is that our watershed starts way up in BC and in the Rockies and comes down from Canada. So our flows will likely change. Like this year, we had a crazy amount of flow as all this snow that we got, including into April, started melting pretty quickly here in June and now July. Like a couple weeks at the dam, it was insane flows coming through there. So we have to manage our flows differently to make sure that there's still the flood control piece while we're also saving water for later in the season when we don't have as much snow melt so that we can generate power later. So there'll be changes that we're adjusting for, that we're planning for, but I would not at this point expect something similar as to what we're seeing with Lake Mead and the Hoover Dam and Lake Powell, where they're really having to restrict their hydropower production at this point. Denny was really curious about recommendations that Anne and Randy had or any consumer report info. I know that when sort of newish technologies come out, like electric vehicles or hybrid water heaters, smart thermostats, all of these newish things, cold weather heat pumps, folks always want to make sure, like, is this something that I can rely on for the long term? And the answer is you can check out consumer reports. Anne and Randy suggested these 4 websites. So myeva.org, plugincw.com, which is a website that they helped create, which not only has this really awesome map of all of the plug-in resources in our area, including private ones, like folks who just open up their chargers at home to other folks who have electric vehicles. But they also have a ton of information on there about specific vehicles and which models and makes you might want to look into. Consumerreports.org, they recommended, and monroelive.com. So if you wanted to really dig into the details of specific makes and models and what kind of resources there are around those are the 4 websites that Anne and Randy recommended. So we answered. Thank you guys for being so. For the record, you guys just left your house, went down to the chamber. Mike Steele was like, "Yeah, I got you," and you set everything up, and now we're doing it via phones. This is where we're at, folks. We are this devoted to answering electric vehicle questions today.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, we are.
All right, perfect. So, we're going to dive into kind of the deep end here. So, Terry had a question. There's been actually a lot of chatter about the price of electric vehicles. So, the idea that, a new electric vehicle is going to cost me 60 grand. That's a lot of gas. Can you speak to this initial cost of electric vehicles?
Yeah, well, all new vehicles are super expensive these days. So that is a tough one to deal with. And if you're really committed to doing the best you can for the planet, then hopefully you can figure out a way to make it work. We have, we're retired, and our income is almost at the minimum level. So
we make it happen.
We work really hard to make it happen. Now, there used to be a lot of used small battery electric vehicles available on the market. But those are getting snapped up like crazy right now because of high gas prices. So, look hard, ask questions, talk to your friends and neighbors about where they might have seen a deal and see what you can do.
So we heard recently that you can actually walk into Kia and get a vehicle. So there are, and I don't think we have a Kia dealership in Wenatchee anymore, but there are other places.
I think we do by Pybus. I think there's a Kia dealer there.
Okay, there used to be. Maybe it's moved, but it used to be over there by Pybus. Yeah. So it does work. You've got to just work at it.
The thing to remember is that over the life of the vehicle, you're going to save money. So we've been driving electric for 11 years, and we have saved money whenever we've had a production electric vehicle on fuel, on maintenance. So in the long run, you'll save money. It's tough to get into it, no question about it, but it's worth the effort.
No, that's a great point. I mean, so sorry, I'm holding the I'm doing some gymnastics over here. I'm holding the phone and it's all good. Yeah, you're absolutely right. This is the issue.
Yeah.
This is the issue with energy efficiency sometimes too, right? It's like, who cares what's up in my attic? Who cares about insulation? It's going to cost money right now. But over time, you're going to feel way more comfortable when all that radiation is not pouring through in the summer through your roof.
That's right.
Right.
And for every dollar you invest in conservation, you will save $3 to $5 in expenses. So, do it. Make that your priority.
Yeah, and that's actually...
And having an electric...
Go ahead.
Having an electric car for us is a commitment. And like Randy says, it's been 11 years, and it is a commitment. And it's also a lifestyle. It's a passion for us, but it's a commitment to do the right thing.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, with, transportation sector contributes 40% or more to climate change and gas emissions. So the single most important thing that we can do as individuals is to drive an electric car instead of a fossil fuel vehicle. So if you care about that, do what you can, work it out.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we often hear stats about, we're going to go, 100%, carbon free. Well, maybe our electricity, but if we're driving a vehicle, if we're relying on any sort of transportation to eat or clothe ourselves or any of the, right? If you buy a good, a truck brought it. That we're pretty, we can assume that. So when we start talking about the transportation and the entire energy sector as a whole, what we use for electricity is a really small slice of that. So you're right. Bringing in transportation matters when we talk about how much carbon we're pumping out. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, perfect. We have another question here. This one's from Don. He sent a question that says, does an EV battery generate its own energy, or does it just store energy generated by another source?
It just stores energy generated by another source, just like every battery. It's charged by some other source, the grid or whatever, and stores energy until it's used for whatever purpose it was made for.
Yeah. And the same with hydrogen. People often think of hydrogen as some sort of energy source. It's
kind of a battery. You have to put a lot of energy in to make hydrogen. And then even if your car is powered by hydrogen and it has zero emissions, it still took a lot of energy to create that hydrogen, which is essentially functioning as a battery.
It does. And when you compare the relative efficiencies of various vehicles, a fossil fuel vehicle is about 17% efficient at taking the energy from the fossil fuel and making it motion on the road. A hydrogen vehicle is only about 20% efficient at taking the energy into hydrogen and putting it on the road after you factor in expenses or energy expenses for making the hydrogen, splitting water, or whatever you do. And then a battery electric vehicle is about 80% efficient at taking the energy from the battery and making motion on the road. So it's really the most efficient thing. So
Still my choice.
Both are quiet. I appreciate that. I will counter your point and say that the most efficient way to get around is an electric car, because I ride bike and I will challenge you any day.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So if you look at the efficiency of just moving, walking is number one, bicycling is number two, an electric vehicle is the next one, even before public transportation, unless the public transportation is like Link that runs on electricity for most of their stuff, and they're getting better all the time. So we're very proud of that too.
Yeah, we have a big crush on Link over here in our conservation department.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think folks realize that they're really the leader in the country, in North America, in terms of adopting electric buses and induction charging. We have a whole episode that we chatted with Richard DeRock last year about it, if you're curious, but check it out. Link is cool. All right.
Absolutely.
We have a question from David. He's, do you guys pay your fair share for roads?
We do. All electric vehicle owners pay an additional $225 a year on their annual tab renewal. $150 of that is supposed to go to pay in lieu of gas taxes to help with road maintenance, and $75 of that is supposed to go toward installation of electric vehicle charging infrastructure around the state. So depending on how much you drive, like when we had a Nissan Leaf and we didn't drive it a lot, we were actually paying more with that add-on tax for registration than a typical driver would for gas taxes. So it depends, but yeah, we're paying our fair share.
We are.
And we believe we should. There's no question about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so it's kind of different. It's sort of a flat tax instead of one that's a function of how much gas you're buying.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Don had a question. What resources are used to extract the resources needed for an EV battery, manufacture an EV battery in a vehicle? So all of the things that go into creating one of our vehicles, whether they're gas powered or electric. But in particular, I think there's a concern around lithium mining and the rare earth minerals that go into creating these batteries. Can you speak to that?
Sure. So everything we do has an impact. There have been several studies done by the Union of Concerned Scientists that say that from cradle to grave, so mining all the minerals, manufacturing, using the vehicle, recycling it at the end of its life, that an electric vehicle is about 50% the impact of a fossil fuel vehicle. A lot of that savings comes because you're using electricity instead of fossil fuels. And even if your electricity comes from a coal-fired power plant, the electric vehicle is still more efficient and will pollute less than a fossil fuel vehicle. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a rock and a hard place with some things, right? I mean, the reality is, the reality is. Sorry, go ahead.
Electric vehicle than with a gas vehicle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
I run a battery gas any day.
So then what happens to the batteries once they're kind of losing their charge and aren't charging up in the same?
Well, electric vehicle batteries works pretty hard. They're cycled just about every day, and that's pretty hard on a battery. But the batteries that are in cars right now are estimated to last between 300,000 and 1 million miles. We had a 2016 or 2013 Tesla Model S that the batteries were supposed to last 300,000 miles, and there are vehicles of that vintage that have been driven that long, and the batteries are still functioning. Now we have a Tesla Model Y, and the batteries in that vehicle are expected to last 500,000 miles. So probably longer than I'll get around. And they're working on a new battery, the 4680 battery, that Tesla is currently starting to utilize. They expect that battery to last 1 million miles. So, but once a vehicle battery can no longer handle the day-to-day cycling, it can be put in a use where it's not cycled that often, like a backup power supply. So it can be used to back up if the grid goes down or something like that. And then once it can no longer even do that, they are recycled. There are already several firms that are recycling lithium-ion batteries. One of the primaries, and Tesla started a new company and is doing that, and Tesla itself is doing that. And they retract the valuable minerals and materials that are in the batteries, and they reuse them in new batteries that are even more efficient. So they're not going to waste, that's for sure.
And hopefully that's happening with all our cell phone batteries, because millions and millions of cell phone batteries we don't want to throw away. We want to be able to recycle and reuse.
Right.
So.
Yeah, right. So this is just like a slightly larger scale of the e-waste that we're already trying to work with and process into more useful recycling options.
Exactly.
Okay, great. Well, folks, if you are just joining us, we have Ann and Randy Brooks with us, and we're talking about electric vehicles and charging options. If you have questions, you can drop them in the chat and they will answer them for us. One question that I often hear is about range anxiety. It goes a little something like, oh yeah, 200 miles per charge, that's just not enough for what I do. Can you speak to that? Because I think sometimes it's totally valid. Yeah. So when does an electric vehicle most make the most sense, and when is it perhaps maybe not the ideal choice for a vehicle?
Well, according to government statistics, we actually, the average American drives 39 miles a day. So you could say that even a small battery electric vehicle could meet that need. Now, we all like to go on road trips. And with most of the cars that are sold today, they have anywhere between 200 and 300 mile range. And having had a 2013 Model S that was EPA rated at 210 miles, and we drove that car on 3,000 mile road trips, it was not a problem. You might have to be a little creative, but the infrastructure is getting much better. Both the Tesla Supercharger network and the Electrify America network are getting much better all the time. So, and then if you really, there's nothing to charge from, remember that you can charge from any outlet. It's very slow, but you can charge from any outlet. And you can charge from RV campground outlets too that RVs plug into, and they're all over the place. So we've actually pulled in and rented a spot for the night, charged the car overnight while we camped in the back, and we're fully charged in the morning. So a 200-mile vehicle can definitely do what you want to do, and there are many that are that or above.
It really depends on your commitment too, because we had a Nissan Leaf that went 80 miles, and we thought we would be able to go to Wenatchee and back with no problem from Chelan. But it was not true. We couldn't quite do that. So we knew that we had to charge somewhere in Wenatchee, and we just worked around that and charged wherever, and then walked to our appointments or take Link to appointments. So it depends on your commitment. And we also took that car over to the west side many times. So we just made an adventure out of it. Stop and get ice cream at Sky Deli, and stop in Leavenworth. And so it's your commitment, and we are very committed to doing that. And we've had a lot of fun because we've explored a lot of wonderful little towns, different places, and got on some great hikes. And it's been fun.
Okay. No, that's a good suggestion. So yeah, our conservation friends over at Opalco, so Orcas Island, like Orcas Power and Light Company, the folks who give electricity to the San Juans, okay? So they actually did a road trip as part of just curious around what electric vehicles could do. And they did a road trip all the way around the North Cascades Highway, down through the Met Howe, down through our area and over. I can find a link and put it in the comments. But I think they had a lot of fun, and they were really surprised at how the infrastructure was there and available. And like you said, you were able to find different places. Like, there's a lot of really cool things in Etiquette, but I don't know how many folks used to just swing by Etiquette. But now there's a supercharger too. So hopefully more people will be swinging by Etiquette, right? And so it's different, but there are some opportunities, as you mentioned.
Exactly.
Yes, there's some nice trails along the river there. Supercharging is so fast. Typically, if you go to the bathroom and get something to drink or eat, you're being notified that the car's ready to go. So
it's almost too quick now.
Yeah.
We used to with the leaf or this. We just keep going. So we have to, sometimes before we start eating, we have to go move our car, which is fine.
Yeah.
But it's quick. It's quick. And, keep in mind that you charge every night and if you need to. And so you always have what you need the next day, except it's just with the traveling on trips. And it's very doable. Very doable. We've gone to Yellowstone, southern New Mexico twice, to Vancouver Island. I mean, it's very doable.
Wow. Okay, cool. All right. Well, I don't have any other questions from folks beforehand. So if folks are listening and they have questions, this is sort of the last call for questions for Ann and Randy about electric vehicles. If you have questions about e-bikes as well, I'd be happy to answer those. That's been a revolution unto itself. Especially living here, it's really, really nice to have an electric bike option so I don't have to get so sweaty. I know that sounds very petty, but it's nice not to have to show up at work and change after all these years of, just showing up a hot mess and having to recover before I go into the office. So electric bikes have made biking, I think, a lot more accessible to folks of all capabilities and all weathers.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do see one question here from Jim White.
Oh, you do?
Many of you may
I don't
know
see
him
that. Jeez, what's going on today? Well, you guys read the questions because I don't see any in my chat.
We're getting quite a few.
I'm not certain where saying James White or not, but the question is, where are we going to get the electricity to power all these electric vehicles? And that's a really good question. People just assume, and I think it's a logical assumption, that we're going to need more electricity. And fortunately, back in 2007, the Pacific Northwest National Lab in Richland conducted a study that concluded that we could convert 73% of light-duty cars and trucks to electric to the electric generation transmission system. I had the author of that study just this year in March, and I said, does this still apply in 2022? And he said, yes, it does. So right now, we only have 2% of the vehicles in Washington State are electric. So we've got a long way to go before we need to worry about whether or not we're going to exceed the power of the grid to keep vehicles charged. And we can really help by conserving electricity other places so that we can use electricity for clean transportation, since transportation is the greatest contributor to climate change and gas emissions. So
I see another comment here too, is time for electric trucks. And there are, Jim White at the PUD just put a review about the Lightning, the Ford 150, the one in Wenatchee that he went and tested on, and he said that within, I think it was a year, would save you $10,000.
So I think it was 5 years, but
okay.
He compared the cost of electricity to charge the vehicle and drive it to gasoline. So if you have a company, you're going to save a lot of money by driving electric vehicles, not only in the cost of fuel, but also less maintenance. So we'll try to get Jim's his comments there on the Plug-in North Central Washington website, plugincw.com.
Sure. Let me pull that up here. Plug in.
So also have a friend that there's a Rivian here in the valley in Manson, and we have a friend that just showed up a couple days ago, last Sunday, and showed us their Rivian. They had ordered it in December and just got it within the last month and are loving it. And it's a great truck. So, there's not a lot of supply of vehicles, but, get out there and, order these vehicles. Like Randy said, they're about the same price as a lot of the gas vehicles if you're going to go get a new vehicle.
Yeah.
And so, go electric when it's cheaper in the long run.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. I actually am seeing the comments now, just to add another layer to our technical difficulties. So I'm going to go back. Thank you, folks. There are some good questions in here. So one of them comes from Aida. She's asking, so electric vehicles weigh more than gas vehicles. Does this impact accident safety or mean additional wear and tear on our roads?
Good question. It does mean additional wear and tear on the tires. So the maintenance on an electric vehicle is pretty minimal. Tires, because the vehicle weighs more, so the tires wear out sooner. Not excessively. So if you drive conservatively, you can still get 30, 40,000 miles out of a set of tires. Windshield wiper blades, windshield washer fluid, and cabin air filter. That's pretty much all in maintenance. Electric vehicles, because of their weight, are charged a little bit more on your license registration because you're in a heavier weight class sometimes. So that's something to be concerned about. Heavier vehicles are the major cause of wear and tear on the roads, but compared to 18-wheeler trucks, other vehicles are non-existent. I mean, it's the truck traffic that causes most of the wear and tear on the roads, and that they are charged as part of their registration for that. So,
and studs too.
Yeah, stud tires too.
Yeah. So it's mainly the tires.
Can we just put a plug? Okay, so I lived in Quebec, which has real snow for a really, really long time. I also lived in Edmonton, so put that on my street cred. When I say we don't use studded tires in Canada because they're not allowed, we use really, really hyper-siped tires, and they do fine in snow. So if you're driving studded tires and they're towards their end of life, please just switch to snow tires. It's all good. You don't need the studs.
Yes.
We haven't used studded tires in many years.
Oh, ever.
Because actually, on dry pavement, which we get in the wintertime, studded tires will skate on dry pavement and have greater stopping distances than a good snow tire.
Yeah.
So only if you have a really steep driveway and it's always compact ice, you need studded tires.
Then there's the damage on all the other roads. Yeah.
And then, there's a product called Auto Socks, where they're a legal alternative to tire chains, and you just drape them over your tire. They have a Kevlar surface. And so check those out. They work great. We use those instead of tire chains. It's called Auto Socks, and they're available through some tire stores and on Amazon.
Oh, I've never heard of those. That's great. Okay. I did want to go back because Joel has some really great comments here when we were chatting about the higher cost. So he's saying that, remember, the supercharging network is part of the package when you buy a Tesla. So it's part of the higher cost. What does he mean?
Well, it used to be when you bought a new Tesla that you got free supercharging. That they phased that out after a while, and you pay now to supercharge. But Tesla has the most extensive charging network in the nation, and you can find them everywhere. Just some even less than 150 miles apart. So, and users, previous owners who are charging help pay for that, and you help pay for that when you buy the car. So it's a really important thing. And we just froze up our image.
Yes, we did. But along with that, that's why we have a Tesla, is because that's the fourth way of charging. Because there's, we call it level 1, which is just a regular outlet. A level 2 is like an RV outlet. A level 3 is a quick DC charging, which all electric, I should say all, because I know one does not have that ability to have quick charging. And then there's the Tesla supercharging. So that's why we have it, because we want to travel. We're going to go to southern New Mexico or southern Texas this fall, and we'll be able to do it in our Toyota, in our Tesla, not Toyota.
So our our camera seems to be frozen for some reason.
Well,
I'm going to turn it off.
I can see you guys. You're moving for me.
Oh.
This is just. It's today.
I turned it off.
It's Wednesday the 13th, everyone.
So I see a question here. Will the PUD switch to an electric fleet?
Joel,
we can't answer.
You are after my heart, my friend.
Actually, Joel, I think it's Julie, but that's okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Julie.
Well, Julie, you too. No, this is a great question. So yeah,
the answer to that?
Yeah, the question about this, I don't have an official answer. What I can say is that Chelan PUD has done a really great job of making sure that we manage our resources appropriately. So if there's a cost savings to switching to electric and a reduction in maintenance costs and all of those things that come with driving electric vehicles, I am certain that we would make that switch over time. That's one of the reasons why we have a new service center, is because it's a cost saving measure. Instead of having all these super old buildings everywhere and having to commute in between them, by centralizing and modernizing into one location, we're able to better serve at a lower cost than we otherwise would. So I would assume that our fleet is also looking at that in terms of how they replace their vehicles or how they expand them. I know that there's a couple electric utilities, like I know Baltimore Gas Electric has them, where they've started testing out the bucket trucks, that the linemen use. So yeah, I mean, it's not just, it's not just trucks that we use. We use other different equipment that we have to be pretty intentional about switching. But yeah, I think that's always on the table. If it saves us money and lowers our maintenance, yeah.
Well, just vehicles. You see PUD vehicles are out there all the time, vans and cars and everything. They should be, yeah, it is Julie instead of, I just saw that. Hi, Julie.
Hey, Julie.
Yeah, there's PUD can be switching to. And look at Link and how much they are reducing their diesel use. They say 50% when they're using the electric buses that we have. We hope we get them up here in Chelan soon.
Yeah.
But I love being able to see those electric buses around that Link are using, and it's 50% savings because of maintenance and their fuel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. I have gone through, and I think we have. Oh, Susan Kane has a question. So, what have you guys heard about one type of charger versus others? Like, do you just have a full trunk of like charging cables and stuff, or how does it work?
Well, for most vehicle owners, it's going to be a standard outlet at home if you're charging overnight, or a J1772 plug, and that's a level 2 plug. Teslas have an adapter that comes with the vehicle to let them use that plug. But when you get into the quick charging on a road trip, that's when things get a little complicated. We used to have what's called CHAdeMO, which was a Japanese standard that was used with the Nissan Leaf. And now American manufacturers are manufacturing vehicles with a CCS plug. So you can get adapters sometimes between those. I'm not up to date on all of those yet. And then, of course, Tesla has another plug. And the reason Tesla has another plug is that they started producing cars first, and they said to everybody, let's do a standard. And everybody said, no, we're not ready yet. So they did their own thing, and now they have a different plug. So, yeah, it's different, but they are working toward getting adapters for things so that everybody can use all the chargers. So,
and we do have some adapters in the back of our car.
Yeah.
They're just a couple and a cord that we can plug into just 110 or 240. Okay. So you could just plug.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So if I wanted to get an electric vehicle tomorrow, so I'd show up at, my dealership, I signed the papers. Like, what do I need to know? Do I have to retrofit my home so that I have proper plugs in my garage? Can I get away with what I have? How hard is making this adjustment? Because it's slightly different. And I know it used to be a little bit wild, wild west, but the technology has come along in the last decade. And now it's, I don't know, it feels like we're kind of on this shift. I was looking today at uptake in new car sales, and you said like 3% in Washington State are electric. Is that correct?
2% right now.
Well, Iceland, it's 52% of new car sales. Yeah, Scandinavia is killing it right now. Like all of them, all the way down. I think Denmark is like bringing up the rear, and they're like in the 30s. But yeah, Scandinavia has a crazy amount of uptake with electric vehicles. So if you had questions about whether they work in the cold, ask our Norwegian friends. And yeah, so Washington State at 2% is actually lower than the national average, which I believe is about 5% based on the numbers that I'm seeing in terms of new car sales being electric vehicles. So it feels like there's a big shift. There's a bit of a wave starting, right? We feel the pulse, and the technology's coming up.
Remember, the 2% I'm talking about is the number of registered vehicles in Washington now. It's not the percentage of new vehicle sales that are electric.
Gotcha.
So that's different.
That's a big difference.
Who knows how Washington? I would expect Washington's doing very well there too. Mm-hmm. People are progressive, and we have reasonably priced power and hydropower and renewable energy in a lot of places.
So your question about what does it take to get somebody that's going to get an electric vehicle, and what does it take when you get home? You can actually just plug it right into a regular outlet, and a lot of garages may have a 240 outlet. You don't have to have anything special. When we had our Nissan Leaf, Randy wired up a charging cord that we've been using since. And we do have to have an adapter for the Tesla, but very easy. We know quite a few people that just plug into just a regular outlet.
Yeah.
And so it's easy. You don't have to do anything.
And then if you do want to have faster charging, you can have an electrician put in an RV outlet, a NEMA 1450. That'll charge you at 30 to 40 miles of range per hour. You can charge in a few hours, usually every night.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, cool. But when you're at home, I mean, most people are home for 10, 12 hours at a time in the evening. So it's not a trickle charge is probably A-okay.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Many people do that because they plug in at home, and overnight they get as many miles back as they used that day, and they're good.
And keep gaining more.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it works really well unless you're driving longer distances.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Okay, cool. Well, do you see any additional comments in the chat? I don't see any presently, but yeah, that's where we're at right now.
Well, Joel does point out correctly that there are many gas-powered or battery-powered other things that we can use, like lawnmowers and hedge trimmers and blowers and things like that. Mm-hmm. Lawnmowers are particularly polluting. I mean, I read once that half an hour use with a lawnmower is equivalent to driving your car 30 miles. So it's like, yikes, that's a lot of pollution because they don't have any pollution control. But you can find battery-powered ones that are not only quieter, and they not only require a whole lot less maintenance, and they start just about every time, but they also don't pollute as much as the other ones.
And they're quieter.
Yeah, and they're quieter. I know. Just say that 3 times because no one loves that sound. Yeah. Hey, neighbors. Yeah, you're right. No, electrification is a big thing. We in Chelan County are a little bit spoiled because we've already electrified so much of our home, like mainly the heating, right? Our heating, our dryers, our hot water heaters, all those things we're used to having them be electric. And it's not like that across the country. But you're right. There's a ton of things that can be electrified. And as we make this shift, just to go back to sort of Michael's question, the more that we can do to use our energy wisely, the more we have available without having to create new generation. We don't have to, raise the desert to put in solar panel farms or anything like that. If we just adjust how we use our electricity, like Joel mentioned that they swapped out their water heater for a hybrid water heater. That uses 60% less energy. So if they used 100 before, they only use 40 now. That frees up 60% to trickle charge their car or mow their lawn more quietly or whatever. So thinking about electricity and energy more holistically, I would love if that were the message that that everyone in Chelan County is getting, is like, we're so gifted here. We're so Like,
yes.
We have this plentiful hydropower, and we don't want to waste it just because we have it. Part of it is we sell it so that we're able to have reduced rates and really awesome parks, including a splash pad that's coming to our Riverfront Park in Wenatchee. We're really excited. Well, I'm really excited about that as a parent. I will not speak for our parks department, who will have to maintain all of these things, but I'm stoked. So, but all of these things, they are paid for by our ability to send power elsewhere. And so if we're intentional about how we use it, we can absolutely support electric vehicles and electric lawnmowers and everything else. The question is being intentional, as you folks have shown us, about how do we use this resource that we have.
Yes.
Yeah, and conserve.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so there's another question. Did you see this one, Lacy?
No, I did not. Tell me.
Could help install home chargers. Actually, Julie did write and say that maybe are you checking questions on YouTube?
Yeah, so I had to open a separate window. Normally it shows up in my feed here, but our thing is a little bit buggy. I can open it up again. I did go through all the questions on YouTube recently.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So thank you, Julie. Yeah.
So a little historical perspective too on your electric bill. When we got our first electric vehicle, we also got that same year we got a multi-split heat pump to help with our heating and cooling costs, and we saw no difference in our electric bill. Our son also happened to move out at that time too, so that was a big savings. But so our electric bill is like $50 a month, and we have a pool and a water feature that runs during the day, and our electric car. So you just won't see a significant increase in your electric bill if you get an electric car.
Yeah, according to Jim White, our senior conservation engineer, it's about 30 cents a gallon is the sort of equivalent. So he ran the math. 30 cents is a lot better than $5. There's definitely no comparison.
So I did a little analysis here recently, and the average American drives 14,000 miles a year. The average EV can travel about 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour. So that equates to about 4,000 kilowatt hours a year, which at our rate is $120 a year to drive your electric car 14,000 miles. Yeah. Now, even at a national rate, the national rate is 12 cents, so that's $480 a year. And you compare that to a fossil fuel vehicle that gets the national average is 25 miles per gallon, so that's 550 gallons a year of fuel. When I wrote this, $4.59 a gallon. Now it's a lot more. That's $2,525 a year for fuel compared to $120 in Saline County.
That's the main reason why we go electric.
Absolutely.
Besides just not polluting and being the right thing to do.
So it saves you money. It really does.
Yeah. Once you can get over that first hurdle, it's kind of smooth sailing.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
All right. One last comment from Joel here. So he/Julie are asking, maybe the PUD could help people install home chargers. And that's a great suggestion. So Jim, who I just mentioned, Jim White, he is working on developing a new program for electric vehicle chargers where we could potentially help subsidize the cost. So there might be a little bit of a rebate there. I don't know that we'd actually come and install them. Yes, because we want to make sure that with managed charging, we can coordinate when folks are charging with their schedules and also when the grid needs power. So it helps everybody all the way around, because you build the grid based upon that maximum amount that you need. So if you can lower the maximum, you can lower costs tremendously. You don't have to build that extra, diesel plant or something. Yeah.
And hopefully at some point in the future, Saline County PUD can have vehicle to grid system where the electric car battery acts as a backup and the utility can draw power from it as needed for short periods of time down to a level that the owner sets. and help with those peaks in power usage to avoid the cost of additional generation.
Yeah, a distributed grid. It's still early days, but that would help, right? Everybody doing their part to have these distributed sources. Yeah, for sure.
Because cars sit about 90% of the time. So, and that's another thing that's coming is the on-demand autonomous vehicle taxi service.
Okay, we're not going to go there.
Yeah.
We're not going there. Well, you two, thank you so much for taking your time and for being so dynamic. Like, thank you. I really appreciate it. You handled this fire with grace.
So one thing, Lacy, before we sign off here, just to reiterate, to get on Plug-in North Central Washington or plugincw.com, and that has a lot of information. And they can contact us for more information, for any more discussion if you want. But there's a lot on our website, more to be updated and improved, but there's a lot of information. So, in fact, we have a recently frequently asked questions sheet that we have on our website now, and that Randy has written up, and a lot more information. Julie Bankin is now our newsletter guru, and if you want our newsletters, you get signed up to receive those, and lots of good information on those now. So it's just great.
Just today, I put on a charging etiquette at public charging stations advice, because new electric vehicle owners, it's new, they just don't know or don't understand. You don't just plug in and walk away. You have to maintain contact, so when your car is charged, you can move it so somebody else can use it. You wouldn't park at a gas station
and leave.
So,
I'm not. I should stop doing that.
It's but it's not their fault. They just don't understand yet.
It's new.
Once they figure it out, no problem. So,
it's just that education.
Yeah,
well,
that's what we're all about.
So
plus your phone tells you when your car is done charging, which gas-powered cars don't do that.
Exactly. All right,
cool. Well, thank you, Ann and Randy. I really appreciate it. And thank you for all your work with Plug-in NCW, with Earth Day up in Chelan. I really appreciate it.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, good. And thank you for your work, too.
Yes.
With the Power Hour, it's great.
Yeah. Keep it up.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time. Next time is actually going to be in Spanish, so that'll be exciting. My doppelganger, Griselda, is going to host, and Sergio is going to be our guest.
Cool.
Oh, that's great. Well, good.
All right. Well, I'll see you guys around. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.